Hello everyone and welcome back. This time I will be reviewing Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 22, Jura. And we open up, we've got actually this time a coloured cover image of Boruto, interestingly in a blue shirt, but looking really fly. He's got some nice drip going on there. Fantastic, looks great. So I've really been I'm sure you all have as well, but I've been really looking forward to this chapter. We obviously left off with Boruto blitzing Matsuri after Sarada herself blitzed Ryu. So two of the Shinju down, and this spurred Jura to show up, well, to make his move onto Boruto. He's jumping into action, so to speak. And we will see that this chapter, and a lot happens, and it's really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to reviewing it and talking about it. So let's dive on in. The first place we're going to jump back into is the aftermath of the Ryu battlefield, where we immediately see that the form bulb has formed. Ryu's form bulb, or is it, well, do you call it Ryu's form bulb or Shinki's form bulb? But that form bulb. But unfortunately, they're still well, I was going to say surrounded, but they've got a few claw grinds to deal with. But as we see, Sarada's still out of commission. But Mitsuki is quick to form the plan. He'll deal with the claw grimes, and Araya should quickly go and grab the form bulb and, well, take it to Shinki. Did they even know what to do with the form bulb? Boruto obviously just told them that they need the form bulbs to restore their friend, but that's what they're planning. But before they can dive into action, it appears something is coming out of this claw grime here, coming out of the claw mark that Mitsuki very quickly notices, and as to no one's surprise, it is Jura. The pesky ability of the claw marks, and Mitsuki is understandably shocked. So here we get a cool shot of Jura looking imposing, kind of using the claw grime as a step stool still. And we've got Araya and Mitsuki acknowledging that they know by the description that this is the boss of the Divine Trees, Jura. So they're probably a bit freaked out right now because obviously Shikamaru told them they had to just leave Jura alone and let him do what he wants. They've been letting Jura roam free in Konoha, for goodness sake. So it's not a good place to be. So these first two panels on the next page are quite interesting actually, because Jura clearly glances at Sarada. I don't know what that means. People have speculated. It could mean a bunch of things. Like he could, Sarada is what's his name? Hidari. Sarada is Hidari's target, so he might be acknowledging that. He might be considering using Sarada as a hostage potentially because he understands Boruto's feelings towards her, and he's trying to understand the whole meaning of love at the moment. Could be resentment because she obviously just blitzed Ryu, who was one of his subordinates, or maybe respect for her abilities. It could be a whole number of things, but all we're going to get is a glance because Jura shoots off into the sky, as, well, Mitsuki just looks on. So this leaves Araya confused because he thought that he would come for Ryu's form bulb, but we, as readers, we get that Jura's here for Boruto, but they don't even know that Boruto's on the other battlefield, because why would they? But before we see what Jura's up to, well, confirmation of what we already know, we switch to the other battlefield, where it's Boruto standing over the remains of Matsuri and Konohamaru just looking in shock. And, I said last chapter I was surprised she crumbled like a tree, even though she's a wood style user. I forgot, they're divine trees. I keep calling them Shinju so much that I completely forgot, their other name is divine trees. They're trees. They are tree people. so I guess it makes sense. Maybe they do just fall apart like wood. So Konohamaru, after struggling so much against Matsuri, is clearly impressed by Boruto completely blitzing Matsuri. And Boruto is a bit humble here. He plays it down as Matsuri was beaten up quite a bit already. Konohamaru did okay. He got those 2 massive Rasengans off on her hands, but he did blitz her. But little thing mistake I made last chapter, I saw this like powder in the air. I thought it was like the Ryu's iron sand like falling on them. But as Boruto says here in the bottom here, it's actually this whole dust forming is the forming of the form bulb after the Shinju is defeated. So this is Matsuri's form bulb getting formed now. But before they can continue their conversation, there is something hits the rock there and a hole forms. And we see in the bottom a clearer shot of the hole and smoke. Konohamaru sees it and, ponders what it is. Boruto confirms. And it's cool we get a name for the attack that Jura used to snipe Boruto with before. And quite aptly, Boruto calls it a miniature Biju bomb sniper shot, confirming that Jura has arrived. So it appears Jura was just trying to snipe Boruto without leaving where he was, I suppose, and when he missed, rather than try again, he's just now going to fly off and confront Boruto directly. Mitsuki acknowledges that he's going towards Konohamaru, but as I said before, they don't realize Boruto has appeared at that battlefield. So, yes, as if we didn't already know, Jura is looking to confront Boruto. And back to the Konohamaru-Boruto situation, the form bulb has finally formed. There it is. They can now rescue Moegi. It's kind of cool here. When I saw the form bulbs before, I didn't think they'd be like that big, like barely fit into a palm of a hand big. I thought they were smaller than that. But anyway, they've got the form bulb, and Konohamaru's obviously kind of excited. He wants Boruto to confirm that this will restore Moegi, but we see in the big panel that Boruto is preparing for Jura's arrival. And at the very bottom, he's now going to send some instructions to Konohamaru. And I love that Boruto is still calling him Master, even though it's an interesting thing where obviously he switched lives with Kawaki, and Kawaki would never call Konohamaru Master. So I wonder if that would that will sit in Konohamaru's mind at all, that Boruto is calling him Master now, even though from his way his memories are jumbled, he probably doesn't. He probably remembers Boruto never calling him Master. So that could play a factor, maybe. So it's an interesting set of instructions that Boruto's giving Konohamaru here. He tells him to get Sarada and the others and go back to where they first met up with the Sand Shinobi with the form bulbs. I don't know if they're en route and gathering together just makes sense. It just seems a bit roundabout. But then he's saying wait for further instructions. I don't know if he's got something planned, maybe? Because surely the only important thing here is getting them safe, so that Jura can't use them as collateral or something to stop Boruto escaping. And I don't know what Konohamaru's saying here. He's like, and before he even gets to say anything, Boruto just snaps at him and says, "You heard me, move!" And Jura's basically closing in on them now. Very quick. I know they weren't that far apart though, were they? They were together. They separated only a little bit just to separate them. So it's probably not going to take that long for him to fly across. I do love these big page spreads. So we get like a big page just split between Konohamaru and Jura. Konohamaru notices Jura, and that obviously means Jura's on the battlefield now. And then the first thing Jura does is start charging a Biju bomb, and of course Boruto has to grab Konohamaru, because even if he was in perfect condition, he would never be able to move fast enough, and he's just heavily injured at this point. And off he fires the Biju bomb with Boruto leaping out of the way with Konohamaru. And of course, it's a Biju bomb. There's a massive explosion, kicks up loads of dust and sand. And of course, Boruto wasn't going to bite the bullet here, so we see that he successfully got out of the explosion with Konohamaru, and he throws him away to relative safety. And yeah, to Konohamaru's credit, he manages to kind of catch himself and get kind of stood upright. Konohamaru, I guess it all kind of sinks in for him. He realizes what he has to do. He just gets up and starts to run as instructed. Jura appears to glance towards him, perhaps considering whether he should attack. But before he can finish contemplating his next move, Boruto appears behind him with a Rasengan, and as we see in the bottom, successfully lands it, striking what looks like a painful blow. His body is kind of shunted forwards by the force of the Rasengan. Jura is seemingly sent flying by Boruto's attack, but he just nonchalantly turns around and fires a Biju bomb back at Boruto. But as we see here, seeing the Biju bomb coming his way, Boruto uses, as we see by the hand sign, Flying Raijin, and at the bottom successfully evades the attack. And I guess they're all square again. Boruto changes weapon now. He's going to draw his blade. And he swings at Jura, but Jura blocks with his claw mark coated finger, which people have been mocking because it just looks like Jura's giving him the finger, but it's his claw mark coated finger. So Jura and Boruto, after trading blows, seem to just stare each other down for a bit and have a brief conversation. Jura complimenting Boruto on his use of the Flying Raijin to evade his attack, and interestingly comments that it's a bad habit of his to get excited when fighting a strong opponent. An interesting comment to make, because he hasn't really fought a strong opponent yet. He's fought what? Who has he fought? He fought Himawari, which was a one-sided slog. We know that. And he cut off Code's arm. Where's the strong opponents in all that? But he apparently gets excited fighting strong opponents, so he's a Saiyan, and he's a Saiyan. Boruto's just nonchalant as ever. But we are going to change scenes now, and we're going to see what Ida and Koji are up to. Ida is observing the fight and relaying it to Koji, complimenting Boruto, saying that he's fighting quite evenly against Jura, but then remarks back to Koji's previous comments about how Boruto has no chance of winning, which Koji reaffirms. And with this current sequence of events that he's obviously seen with his ability, his transience, wasn't it? That he can't win, and Boruto has to be aware of that. And Ida remarks that Boruto has to teleport away, but Koji shoots it down, saying that Boruto cannot teleport away. When I saw this, I already speculated why he can't teleport away, but there's no... I then found out on the next page that they kind of reveal all the information that I was like, oh yeah, I was thinking about that. So it's probably pretty obvious. So the first point that is brought up is that using long-distance Flying Raijin requires a lot of focus on these faraway objects, and that will be difficult to do with Jura focusing on killing Boruto. So that's one problem already. And then the other problem Koji brings up is that if Boruto were to successfully teleport away now, it would put Konohamaru, Sarada, Mitsuki, and Araya in danger. And not only that, Jura would just recover the form bulbs that they've got, which would defeat the whole object of, fighting the Shinju. They would just be restored. So Boruto's plan of action is to keep Jura engaged until they successfully escape. this next bit, Koji says very calmly, surprisingly, but he says, Boruto's done for, without doubt. And speaking of Boruto, we switch back to Boruto, who's looking stoic as ever. And in the bottom, a curious set of panels I just want to have a comment over is that Jura just kind of narrates for a bit here and reiterates his whole he's come here to kill Boruto because he knows too much. And that's the thing that got to me. He knows too much, right? So it's because he knows about the form bulbs that Jura wants to kill him. So surely Koji saw this. Shouldn't he have just told Boruto, don't talk openly about the form bulbs then? Don't let the Shinju know that you know all this information. Otherwise they'll target you. Oh well, too late for that. So it appears Jura just wants to get some information out of Boruto, how he knows so much, but Boruto's staying silent. And it's sort of like, as you see in the bottom here, while Jura's monologuing, Boruto's just having like an internal load of thoughts. Saying that, he reckons Jura must have taken some damage from the Rasengan, and but he can't read him at all, and has now decided his plan is to use Uzuhiko on him. Which, good plan, great ability. Oh, speaking of panels, these panels definitely have been memed a lot since, like, the sneak peeks, the early releases, whatever. So Jura wants to know another question from Boruto, and he asks, "What is love? Jura, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more." But yeah, he just asked, "What is love?" He's been trying to find out about that. And Boruto stays silent, as he's been doing, and Jura lets him know his hypothesis that he sees love as a flaw that is a side effect of high intelligence. He kind of goes and says that as proof for love being a flaw, that Boruto came to this battlefield to save Konohamaru because of love, even though it was hopeless and that he had no chance against Jura. So love has led him to his death. And he uses wood style on Boruto, seemingly to either capture or crush him. But Boruto jumps to evade. But unfortunately for him, Jura sends more wood style over to attack him. So we see here Boruto sees the attack and starts to fly away. Unfortunately, as he internally monologues in the bottom here, that he needs both his feet planted to the ground to be able to use Uzuhiko. But, he says in that case, so he appears to have a plan. It seems as part of this plan, the wood style now approaches Boruto and he throws his katana before seemingly getting struck as, he makes the ugh sound and is sent hurtling to the ground as the katana impales the sand. So this is all part of his plan, but it seems very risky. He is seemingly caught in the wood style attack, and judging by his expression, it's done quite a bit of damage as well. He's coughing blood, and Jura approaches the discarded katana and the seemingly captured Boruto. Jura looks down at the katana, and Boruto now kind of raises his head and yells at Jura that it's a precious object borrowed from his master, and if you do anything to it, you'll face a fate worse than death. All very obviously acting, it's part of his plan, but Jura falls for it hook, line, and sinker, grabs the katana, and just seems to assert that this proves his theory about love, that he's falling victim to it yet again. So at this point, Jura seems to be fully falling for Boruto's plan. He's trying to get Boruto to relinquish details about his accomplice at the cost of breaking his katana if he doesn't reveal information. But he also points out the futility of it, since he'll just kill Boruto afterwards, regardless of what happens. And then Boruto's going to start speaking and talk about how love may be a flaw and a weakness of humans, but he's going to share his opinion on love. I don't think he cares. I think he's just doing this to stall for time so he can charge up for Uzuhiko. But we can see that's exactly what he was doing. We can see the animation for Uzuhiko, which catches Jura's eye, and the sheer force of just generating Uzuhiko. I keep pronouncing it wrong. Uzuhiko breaks Boruto free of his wooden restraints. Boruto just coldly says, "That's precisely why you will never be more than just trees." And we see he's using the sign for flying Raijin and appears right behind Jura. Boruto successfully lands Uzuhiko and Jura is sent flying. And we see on the next page, it just continues. He gets sent flying some more. And Boruto claims his katana. And very similar to how he explained it to Code. He explains the concept of Uzuhiko to Jura. And that he won't be able to fly. He won't be able to stand. He'll struggle to stand straight. That the whole world will seem to be spinning. Unfortunately for Boruto, Jura is basically immediately able to undo Uzuhiko. And he explains it as because Uzuhiko is similar to his Biju bombs. So he was able to just nullify it. And we just get Boruto internally saying, damn it, Uzuhiko doesn't work on him. And that's where the chapter ends, with Boruto taking quite a bit of damage to execute his plan. That looked very good and very successful, but it's come up short. And he's not in a good way. He is kind of fucked. But we know he's not fucked. That's the thing. So it's how we find out he's not fucked. What's going to save him, essentially? Because he's not dying here. We know that. So will he get desperate and maybe try and use karma, and out comes Momoshiki for the first time since the time skip? Maybe Kawaki comes to the rescue. I saw someone suggest maybe the Yambu will come and try and give him a way to escape. All good suggestions. But I suppose we won't find out until about June. I don't know what the date will be. It'll be about June 20th. So we've got a ways to wait, unfortunately. So it is with a monthly release schedule. But until then, thank you for watching as ever, and I'll see you in the next chapter. Bye for now.